What position will the Cowboys most likely address in the first round of this year's NFL draft? Let us know what position you think the Cowboys should.
Long snapper.
Long snapper.
Mm-hmm. Final answer.
Lock
it in.
Is that what we're doing tonight?
Yep.
Long snapper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Glad you feel that way.
Yep. You're welcome.
Probably going to address something other than long snapper with the first overall pick.
Okay, whatever.
The first round pick. Just because I think that's a little more important.
I thought best
Other
player
positions?
Available, you know what I mean? So, but
You think the best player available is going to be a long snapper
That's
at 26?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Standing on that one.
That's who I'm working with, Larry, tonight. That's who I'm working with. Long snapper.
Yeah, I'm going to let everybody in on a secret. I'm being destructive today.
Oh, is that what you came to do?
Destructive.
Chaos?
That's right.
Okay. Kind of like Brooks Koepka at the top of the leaderboard at the Masters.
Brooks Koepka is out here holding it down for the live game.
He said, I got live. Don't you worry about it, live. I'm going to put y'all on my back for the Masters tournament. By the way, Tiger Woods +2 today.
Okay.
Yeah, +2 in his first
2
round.
over 74. All
That's
right.
People weighing in already on the TrekRed.com text line 877-881-1053. Relax 817.
That's right. Yeah,
Field
baby.
goal holder,
Field goal holder. Let's
972
go.
kicker. Really? For the 469. Better be a damn running back or an offensive lineman.
Or what? Wait a minute. That's real aggressive.
Are you making threats? 469. Better be 972 quarterback. What are you doing? What's going on?
You know what they're doing.
I know what they're doing. For the 469 O-line that they help, which is, I think, for a lot of people, Reg, some of the consensus.
Look at him being a pro.
Coming around with the first round pick for the Dallas Cowboys at number 26. Names that we have heard so far: Osiris Torrance, the talent out of Florida.
Yeah.
Florida getting a lot of popularity these days. Anthony Richardson for what may be happening there. Also, Steve Avila. The guard.
I think it's Avila we learned.
Is it Avila? Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Okay.
Look.
Sorry to that man.
No. Wow. What? Wow. No, because apparently Bobby Belt and Brian Broaddus, two fantastic football insiders at this point, in their travels and in their understandings, they have learned that it is Avila.
Avila.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shout out to Steve Avila. As I get that right from now. From TCU, though. But those are two of the names that we've heard.
Go Frogs.
TCU, there's a lot of idea that maybe multiple TCU products could be on this Cowboys team. Namely, as we mentioned, Mr. Avila. Now I'm like thoroughly confused because I got Avila in my mind, but now I have to adjust it. But also Kendra Miller, running back from TCU.
Yeah.
Could be a possible Dallas Cowboy if the Cowboys are going to be looking for a running back later on in the draft. From the 817, what about this one? Trade the pick at number 26. Elaborate on that for me, 817. What kind of trade proposal are you trying to put out there to move from the 26?
So you trade 26 for more picks, KG. That's the objective.
Or trade up, maybe, to go get.
I guess that's technically a possibility.
You could trade up to go get a certain, fair.
You know what? I'll take the L on that one. Congratulations, KG. You got me.
You're welcome. So corner and also offensive lineman, tight end, because
that's been mocked a lot.
It has. And the name that I'm starting to see a little bit more in some of the mock drafts that we've seen, obviously Dalton Kincaid has, thank you, 214. I'm glad that I showed up on time as well. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I like the accountability. Appreciate that, 214. Thank you. But at the same time, Dalton Kincaid has been one of the ones that we have seen mocked quite a bit to the Dallas Cowboys at 26. Another name that we're starting to see in mock drafts for the Dallas Cowboys at number 26 is another tight end. This one from Notre Dame and one Michael Mayer. And you say, Kevin, I don't want another Jason Witten lookalike to be coming around at tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. I want a Dalton Kincaid-like player who can stretch the field and be able to create vertical plays from the tight end position.
Wait a minute. You don't want a tight end that can do all of the things, right? Because that is the reason why Michael Mayer has been long for the entirety of the season really viewed as tight end one, right? Is the guy that he can get in line and block like the best of them, and then he can go out there and do the things necessary to catch the football. Now, some people will say he's not explosive, and so I understand why that might be a concern. I know that we've had folks that have pointed to the idea of, oh man, he's not like a yards after catch type player. And at that point, I'm like, hey, man, we doing a little much, aren't we? Right? Like the idea that he's not giving you every single thing, but he gives you a lot of those things. And one of the things that's necessary is being able to block in some ways, right? And I understand that we've gotten to this point in football where tight ends are really split in some way. Like we've made the tight end a split end a little bit. But no, having the ability to get in line and block as well in some ways also makes it so that your personnel does not immediately telegraph what you're doing at times. And that's also helpful in this game where it's all about the numbers. And if you can get a wrong personnel from the other team, you can go and attack it. But no, he's clearly very, very good at football, Michael Mayer. And beyond that, I do want to go back in a way because I know you talked about tight ends in there. You have the athleticism that Dalton Kincaid does, the ability to attack the seam, which is a great thing. But one thing that I have been my spirit has been unsettled about.
Oh, not spirit unsettled.
Oh yeah. I've been praying about it and seeking guidance, and my spirit has not found the ease that I wish. Is offensive line. Man, we've had so many conversations about the musical chairs of sorts, and obviously you bring in Udoga as a guard option as the possibility of being able to hold down that left guard spot if necessary.
Possibly being your starting left guard,
But I don't know that I feel great about that, and I understand that's probably not fair because it's not like I've been out here watching Udoga's film, right? Like, oh yeah, that dude's a great left guard or not, right? But however, the idea of a left guard that will hold you down and be solid, especially for a team that wants to be able to run the football some level of significant amount, and understanding that the modern NFL game, when it comes to a quarterback, you can evade the pressure from the sides in some ways. That pressure up the middle is devastating. It's dastardly. So making sure your guard play is right is going to be helpful. And so like getting a valuable guard is probably something that I still value quite a bit. It's one of the places where I would like to see. Now, of course, I don't want you to break the mold. I don't want you to find yourself reaching. I don't want you to find yourself messing up your value. But if you have the opportunity to draft a guard that can play and be a high quality guard, I think that is the position on this team that scares me the most. Is like in some ways the ways in which your line started to devalue and making sure that it's tight together, because one of the things we've seen here locally in Dallas, when your line is together, you could do a lot of things, right? The game ultimately, like in its very essence, is about blocking and tackling and making sure that offensive line handles one of those two things.
From the 903, who doesn't want another Hall of Fame tight end? Here's the thing. Jason Witten was a terrific tight end for a long time with the Dallas Cowboys. But at the same time, the NFL has changed quite a bit, especially at the tight end position. No longer do you have your 6-yard hitch routes and fall down for a couple more yards and then continue to keep the chains moving. You have to have dynamic pass catchers and guys that can stretch the field. We're talking about physical individuals like a George Kittle. We're talking about pass catchers like a Dallas Goedert or Mark Andrews or whomever you would want to name, a Travis Kelce. We're talking about guys that not only bring physicality to the position, specifically in George Kittle, but more so a Travis Kelce type who can not only be a possession receiver, but can take things up the seam, can stretch things vertically, and be a safety blanket for a Patrick Mahomes as he is. I'm talking about more dynamic tight ends versus what you would see in a Michael Mayer, who's a very good pass catcher, a physical player, great blocker, but doesn't necessarily stretch the field that you would want like a Dalton Kincaid or a Washington of some sort in that particular way.
Man, that's a great point. We do need a get-back coach, man. Like, so maybe if a get-back coach is there at 26, that'd
I see
be
you,
helpful.
Vosh. I see you there. Great get-back coach. Who would be a great get-back coach? Like, what kind of characteristics do you need in a get-back coach?
Somebody strong and scary. Right, like somebody that the person who, if they're, because in the idea of the get back coach is like your head coach or whoever is on the sideline is not in their right frame of mind. They're just angry, and so they're getting onto the field. So
you just pull them back.
You need somebody that's scary enough to snap them out of that. Like, oh, you right, OG, my bad. I was wild and I was on the field. You right. So either that perspective or somebody that's just going to pick them up and then move them to the place that they need to be and settle
So like
down.
The strength and conditioning coach or one of his assistants or something like that?
Exactly what you need an S&C. And you know what makes an S&C? Somebody that is crazy enough to make you mad enough to lift heavy weights, but also like large and scary enough that you're not going to take that anger out on them, right? So like it's a very narrow balance. And for an S&C, if you get somebody who is like that level, that'd be great.
I like this from the 214. How's the athletic tight end working for Atlanta? Well, Atlanta's not good. And they don't have a quarterback worth a damn to throw Kyle Pitts to football.
And Kyle Pitts produced pretty well.
And so that bad example there, 214. From the 940, McCarthy didn't use tight ends much in the passing game. Didn't for my Packers anyway. Which is interesting because the one throw that still haunts me to this day is the one throw that was to a tight end by the name of Jared Cook.
You don't have to do this.
Back in 2016. Well, they brought up the idea of using a tight end, and the Packers didn't necessarily do it. But the one time they decided to do it it ended what was a 2016 terrific season for the Dallas Cowboys.
And of course, you should not necessarily allow this to fully warp your perspective, but we've done a lot of these talking about the tight ends, but it also needs to be in the context of what do you have on your roster. How do you feel about Peyton Hendershot, Jake Ferguson? Jake Ferguson, who, mind you, has been talked about as if people see Travis Kelce within him, or shades of Travis Kelce within him, and that's high praise in the modern era, right? Some people view him as possibly the best tight end that we've seen in the modern era, right? So, how do you feel about the tight end position? Obviously, not trying to disrespect Sean McEwen, but he is a level below those two guys.
Sure.
What do you view about the way that they have those two rookie guys this past season performed for you?
I think they show flashes of the ability to be long-term solutions at the tight ends position, which is why I was so confused as to why there were so many mocked tight ends in the draft. But the basis of that mocking of, Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, and others at the tight end position was the idea that you lost Dalton Schultz and you have to replace him. So I don't necessarily feel like that is the case if you've got two young tight ends that you feel confident with. If you're the Cowboys, knowing that depth on the offensive line has been a hallmark for this team for years, that to me would seem like the most logical place to go, given what you're needing to address in terms of not just your immediate future, but also your long-term future when it comes to possibly losing Tyron Smith or moving on from him after this year, or possibly losing if you don't get a long-term deal done with Terrence Steele after this year is over with.
Also a great point.
As well. So that to me seems like I'm starting to go and coalesce as far as the first-round pick for the Cowboys is addressing offensive line, which means that you would go back-to-back years addressing the offensive line. Last year, of course, with Tyler Smith and possibly doing so again. But if I'm ranking them in order, I'm going offensive line, corner.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, because we've talked about offense. Offense ends up being the place on a football field where a lot of eyes focus. It's obviously the point-scoring unit of your football team. But when you talked about the possibility of needing players in the future at certain positions, cornerback jumps off of the page, because you have not yet tied down Trevon Diggs, and you traded for Stephon Gilmore, who should absolutely help you this year, but that is effectively a one-year deal, and he is 33 years of age. Am I correct in that assessment? Right? Like, that is not scream out long-term solution, even if I do think that he will be a short-term solution for you. That is a position that, especially with the level of depth that we've had, our various draft analysts speak to, that might be something to consider, is if you find a cornerback that is there, that you find that you value. Maybe that is the way to go about this and really solidify a side of the ball that it seems like everybody in the organization feels strongly about, right? It seems like everybody in the organization is all behind Dan Quinn and whatever his vision is for the football team, at least as it pertains to defense. And if that's the case, why not invest further in making sure that remains strong? As we've talked about, that could be your forward-facing front part of this team this year is the defense. So why not further that by adding a first-round pick to what you have there?
Especially if you feel like, as you mentioned, Stephon Gilmore being a one-year rental and then moving on from him after this year, depending on what he does for your Cowboys. Names that could be there, Devon Witherspoon, Deontay Banks.
Emmanuel Forbes is one that our friend Aisha Morrison has brought up multiple times.
From Mississippi State. So there's names that are there, but we're starting to hopefully get an idea, as we're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, of some names that we can start to formulate, more opinions on, that gives us a realistic idea of who could be there at 26 that the Cowboys would actually be looking at. And you can take a look at their 30 visits and see whom they've had already there. When you look at, Jalen Hyatt, other names that have been here already, you can kind of get an idea of maybe what the Cowboys are starting to look at.
You think you can draft Curtains at 26? Is that a possibility?
You wouldn't have to draft them because they're already here. They just don't use it.
Oh, fantastic.